So, my next problem is making this a nice flat surface to accept the base of the reed body. As you can see, it'd be a pain in the ass. Now, from what I've heard, people just tap and they get a couple of threads into there and they flatten this out the best they can. Now what I'm going to do is take this aluminum, not this aluminum, that one's a little thin. I'm going to take this aluminum, I'm going to cut a block that fits in the void across both case halves. Then I'm going to mark the center where it needs to be cut. Once it's one big piece, then I'm going to cut it down that line so I have two pieces. Once I have my two pieces, I'm going to glue another piece to the top of it so that they're steady, still on the same plane, just like they were one piece. That way when I epoxy it in there, they're on the exact same plane still, as if it was one piece. And when I pop off the top one, they can be split apart as two separate case halves and still have that nice flat surface right across. And then I'll cut my marks out of here after. So, I'm going to fit these, cut them out, and then when I do this too, I'm going to be drilling tiny holes on angles into this aluminum. And the same as in here, going to be tiny holes on angles, different ways, and rough this up real good. Gouge under here a little bit, maybe gouge into here a little bit, and do whatever I can to get that JB weld to bite into the base of this and bite into this and hold that plate on there good. That's the plan. See what we end up with. Now I've just been going in here, trying to go on different angles to the metal, drilling in a tiny little bit, just enough so that that JB weld has something more to bite on. And what I'm doing is just running the bit in the drill press, going in on a good angle. And it is aluminum, so you can slowly dent it there, get the bit to start, and then feed it in on a big angle. And do all different angles down in here. And basically just get lots of meat for the aluminum. So this is what we got now. I got my two pieces. They're smushed together with that paper in between so that my epoxy doesn't harden into one piece. That gives me that little bit of, something as a spacer in between, because they are two pieces. Then this is lightly super glued, 2 dabs to the lower part. That's just to keep that as a nice flat true surface when it's finally epoxied in there. And I take it apart, when you bolt the cases back together, you'll still have that nice flat mating surface for the reed block to sit on. And that's all holed out, gouged out, so that epoxy will get lots of bite. Same thing there. Basically, now I should be careful. I don't want to wreck that piece of paper. Try and do this here. Slides in there like that. The other case half slides on there. And that's after I got it all smeared real good in epoxy. And then once the epoxy's all dry, I'm going to pop that piece off that I got glued across, and I should be able to split the case halves and have a nice flat surface for mounting the reed block to. Moving on up, I got her epoxied in, my paper spacer. Now it looks like a mess right now, and to be honest, that's very clean for what the fuck I'm doing here. This is a pain in the ass to do without getting epoxy where you don't want it and to get it where you do want it, because I still have to be able to split this case halves apart when I'm done all this. Now this piece of aluminum on top here, this is just super glued to these other two pieces in the back. That's two pieces in behind it, and that's just super glued there to keep those true, to keep that back part a nice flat surface. So once that epoxy hardens, tomorrow I'll come out here, I'll take a flathead, I'll pop that off, break the super glue, that aluminum piece will come off, I'll unscrew the case halves, and I'll pop them apart. And hopefully that paper, that gasket that I made, is going to keep everything from getting stuck together. Now, I run in, you see that epoxy right there? That should not be there. So I'm going to run into spots like that that are going to stick on me. Places where it oozed out where I didn't want it to. And I coated that part of the case half in grease. You can see some of that green grease sticking out there. I coated that part in grease so that if some did leak out like it did there, hopefully it doesn't stick too good to the case, and I can just pop it apart with a light tap. So we'll let that dry overnight. Get the cylinder there. It's hardening up good. And we'll get back at her in the morning. See what we can do.